Spectrum wants to hear your views. You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, aspiring for a pro-people justice system. What should the justice law and order sector undertake to achieve this objective? On Monday, stakeholders in the justice law and order sector will launch efforts to ensure that the justice system in Uganda becomes more pro-people by focusing on those issues that normally frustrate the quest for justice. This sector comprises of the judiciary, the police, the prison service, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, government line ministries, and several other players. This sector has a lot of challenges. Some are internally generated, while others are structural and public-driven. The judiciary, for instance, has often come under criticism for delaying justice and corruption, among other charges. The police force is regularly criticized for brutality and corruption, while the prison service is often accused of forced labor and inhumane treatment of inmates. Other entities under the sector are equally under scrutiny over various accusations. Now, some people have suggested that key reforms are required in the sector to be able to realize transformation and ensure better service delivery. On Monday next week, JLOS officials will arrange a rare interaction with members of the public. So tonight we ask, how can the justice law and order sector overcome all these challenges to arrive at a pro-people justice system? Also, what exactly is going to happen on Monday during this open day, and thereafter, what will it change for you and me? Our guests tonight, Mr. Sam Wanagale, Technical Advisor, Monitoring and Evaluation at JLOS. You're most welcome, Mr. Wanagale.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Mr. Paul Gandeya, Senior Technical Advisor to the JLOS sector. You're most welcome, Mr. Gandeya.
Thank you, and good evening, listeners.
We also have one of our regular panelists, Honorable Mike Sebalu, Ugandan representative at the East African Legislative Assembly. You're most welcome, Honorable Mike Sebalu.
Thank you very much, moderator, and may I say good evening to all our listeners out there.
Mr. Gandeya, what can you talk to us about JLOS? What exactly is JLOS?
JLOS, as you've explained, is made up of 17 institutions charged with the administration of justice, maintenance of law and order, and human rights. We exist to ensure the safety of the person and security of property. And we've been in existence for the last 12 years. And over the years, we've registered a number of achievements, the most important of which being able to organize how government delivers justice and law and order services. I always say that the problem in government is not the absence of money. The problem in government is an issue of organization. And we've tried in the just law and order sector to make sure that we bring organization and sanity in the delivery of justice. Over the last 12 years, we've built the justice system. We are present in all the districts of this country. We've been able to deal with crime, which is actually on a declining trend. The courts, despite having their own problems, for the first time in our independence years, have been able to do more than 100,000 cases. In fact, we hope that by next year, the courts will be able to do more cases than they are registered in the system. Once that happens, then the courts will start to critically deal with the issue of delays. Relatedly, we've been able to expand police services to all the sub-counties of this country. The conditions, though still deplorable, are much better than what they were many years ago. When you go to the Uganda prison service, the living conditions of the prisoners and the inmates have improved. Today, where there is congestion at levels of 1.9, that means that for every space in prison, there are 2 people. We must remember that 5 years ago, the congestion levels were 5 times. When you look at the delivery of other services like issuance of passports, work permits, and related documents from the Uganda Registration Service Bureau, there has been marked improvement in terms of the lead times in issuance of these documents. Most importantly, the public, at least these days, speaks more about justice services. And for us that is very good, because you cannot improve a system except if you know it. And so by people getting to speak more about justice services, we think that this country is on a long road to recovery. In as far as governance and election matters are concerned, I think the Just Law and Order sector has set a continental example of handling electoral disputes, both petitions and cases in court, in record time. For the last year's elections, all these petitions at the High Court level were concluded in less than 6 months. Nobody in Africa has been able to do that. Our brothers in Kenya, in their last election, resorted to violence because they did not trust the court system. In this country, everybody trusts the court system in as far as the resolution of electoral disputes are concerned. In terms of access to justice, we have strived to build modern police stations, modern courts, modern offices of the DPP. We have even regional offices for the Ministry of Justice. This is important because most of the infrastructure for the Just Law and Order sector institutions was built either in the colonial times or in the first years of independence. However, in the last 12 years or so, we've been able to build at least 46 courts. We've been able to build several police stations. We've been able to build several prisons. I'll cite the one of Nakasongola, Gulu, and a number of other prisons. We've been able for the first time to get the Ministry of Justice out of Kampala. You have regional centers in Mbarara, we have a regional center in Gulu, we have another center in Arua. This year we're building a center in Mbale, and at the moment we're also building a regional center in Moroto to serve the greater region. For the Ministry of Justice, I think it is important that it goes out there. And I'll speak for the common people who look for services like those of the Administrator General. They are mainly in Kampala, and yet people die everywhere in this country. And the majority of people who die may not be able to access these services in Kampala. So we're trying to decentralize those services. We're also doing other reforms, and I'm happy to tell our listeners that other countries in the region are learning more from us. People in Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, and some countries in Asia have sent delegations here to learn and see how JLOS is organized. For the World Bank, which tried the sector-wide approach and failed in most countries, I think they can look at JLOS
in Uganda,
how you can use a sector-wide approach as a means of public service delivery.
Mr. Gandeya, obviously this is revolutionary. It shows excellence in governance. I've looked at some, you mentioned some of it. Some of it is not even mentioned, you don't have the time to mention, but there's no doubt that you have been able to deliver. Now, one of the remarkable things you bring out, there's no question about delivery. You really have revolutionized the sector. But let's talk about one of the things that you mentioned. You say it's really organization, not necessarily money. Some people will say we need huge budgets. How are you able to do it? Very briefly, and can it be replicated in other sectors?
This is what we've been able to do. Even we receive less than 6% of the national budget
for all these sectors.
For all these Just Law and Order sector institutions. But despite that, we've been able to rationalize resource allocation by one, just communicating to each other, getting to know what the problems are, coordinating our approaches to resolving issues, and also through cooperation. Now, I'll give an example. In JLOS, you'll find justice services being delivered in one building.
Justice services.
You'll find a court there.
Yes.
You'll find police nearby. You'll find the offices of the DPP. You'll find community services there. Now, we're able to use one facility to deliver as many services as possible.
And it's possible in other sectors as well.
Yeah, it's possible in other sectors.
All right.
No. Okay. Fine.
Okay, I'd like Mr. Waire, I would like you to talk to us about the open day on Monday specifically. What are you planning to do and what can we expect to get out of it?
Okay, thank you. Maybe just before the open day, I want also to emphasize that these achievements have been possible because of strengthened planning. As a sector, we have been implementing our second sector strategic investment plan, which is coming to conclusion on the 30th of June this year. And we are in the process of developing the third sector investment plan. The idea of planning is that you are able to rationalize the use of your little resources for maximum benefit and for maximum impact. And that is one way in which we have been able to deal with the very many challenges with very little money. And of course, planning is the key to success, especially if you plan and you are very clear on what kind of results you want to achieve. On the open day, as a sector, we believe that justice is about the people and is therefore for the people, because they are central in the demand and use of justice services. Over the years, the people have come to our institutions in search of justice, and it has become a tradition that we sit back as government officials and think that the public out there will come to us when they need us. But we realize that one of the ways in which we can build a partnership with the communities and with the people in Uganda is to go out to them. And that's why we have organized the open day. The open day means that we have opened our doors to the people. We have gone out to the people and we want the people to listen to us, and we want to listen to the people. We want to know how best they would want us to serve them. We want them to be free with us. Sometimes some of our offices are intimidating. That is why we have gone out in the open and put our services to the people. We explain to them what we do, how we do it, and how best we can serve them. And we'll also be able to listen to them in an informal way, as opposed to situations where they would come, say, to a police station to report a case. This time, there is no case to report. It is purely sharing information and being able to achieve what one would not ordinarily achieve in a busy office. Today, on that day, the judges will be at the disposal of the people, not to listen to cases, but to talk and interact with them. The policemen will be available not to manage public order, but to listen to the people and get to discuss with them what exactly they would want the police force to do for them, and vice versa. You'll have interaction with the prisoners, not as inmates, and not as people visiting inmates in the prisons, but in an environment which is free of all the other official trappings.
Yes.
You'll have access to some of the things you have never been able to interact with on a day-to-day basis. How are forensic analysis is done in real life? Many of us have been grappling with issues of paternity. You resort to all sorts of trickery from our so-called medicine men and so on, throwing chicken on the roof. That one can be proved, and that is done through the justice law and order sector. We do have a laboratory in Wanagale with a DNA machine, and a working one. And that machine is a testimony of what coordination, cooperation, and coordination can bring. We bought that machine over a 4-year period. We spent.
Is it a very expensive machine? How much did you spend?
We spent $500 million shillings
buying it.
We were saving
500 million shillings to buy a DNA machine.
Yes, we were saving 100 million shillings over that long period of time. And that was at the expense of some of the other things that we felt dear, like people going out to travel outside of the country. You know how many people enjoy traveling on
coffee
breaks and so many of those other things, so that we can be able to move away from evidence of hearsay and witnesses, personal physical witnesses, to scientific evidence in the process of investigation of cases.
All right, we'll get more about the open day. For instance, the actual drawings of it, how is it going to be carried out and where. We'll get to hear about that. Honorable Mike Sebalu, when you listen to this discussion, what do you pick out? Is it something that's working? Does it strike you the way it strikes me, for instance?
Yeah, I think it is very impressive. More so, if you are to appreciate what my colleagues here are talking about, you need to look at where we're coming from. That is very, very important, because if there is a sector that was so abused and that gave Uganda a bad name, it was the JLOS sector of the previous governments. You know, during Amin's time, definitely there was nothing to talk about. Obote too had serious challenges in this area. Lutwa was a transitional arrangement which couldn't build structures in this area. So you really see that the sector has come a long way, and to build these kind of structures, institutions, legal framework is something to write home about. So I just want to congratulate them about that. But there are aspects which we still need to give emphasis, even with this litany of very good performance. The issue of access to justice, access and cost, still remains a big issue. If you look at the ratio of Ugandan population to the judicial personnel, you still find it is a big ratio, which needs to be brought down. If you look at the ratio of a policeman to the population, you will find that one policeman is supposed to take charge of quite thousands of people, which again creates
608 now.
Yeah, that is still.
What was the figure before? 1,500, I think.
1,500
to 600.
Yeah, I appreciate, and I'm bringing this not to say you've not done a good job, but when you look at the villages we have, you find it's about 600 people. So one policeman for a manning the village is still on the higher side, and I really want our colleagues to reduce the ratio further, so that they make it more beneficial to the population. When you look at the courts and the issue of backlogs, it is still a big issue. It is still a big issue, and that has a multiplier effect and a connection to the prisons. Because of the backlog, definitely you are going to have many people in prisons not being discharged, and it creates overcrowding. That is an area where I think we can still do a good job. In the police, I think the area of community policing needs to be given emphasis. I think we've gone in too many other areas, criminal and what, but community policing in a proactive way, and getting the community to know their rights and to know the law and be able to obey the law. I think that is an area that needs to be given quite some good touch.
Okay.
Now you go to immigration. Yeah, I appreciate the passport, but we have the East African passport. It's not in production now, and yet it was created for a given purpose, to facilitate travel within
the region.
I'm a member of East African Legislative, but I'm not holding one, and I've been been lining up for all this time to get one, and that is something that, because we need to work in such a way that we promote other instruments to which we are part. We are part of the East African community, and we should be seen to help out in that area. Now we've got one area which gives me a lot.
Maybe we'll talk about that.
No, let me just give it, because it affects, and they are basically dealing with it.
Very briefly,
that is the issue of civic education, because there are so many things that are happening. There are so many achievements. People have their own obligations as citizens, and the government has, but without civic education,
we can't move.
I think we can't move. And I want to thank you for, because you are partly doing civic education.
Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight, aspiring for a pro-people justice system. What should the JLOS sector undertake to achieve this objective? We're going for a break, but we'll be right back.
Something new on the horizon.
Get your weekend started with the Kampala Sun. More gossip than your local bar, more photos than your phone can store.
The one-stop paper for news on celebrities, sports, and the corporate scene.
Get your copy every Friday for just 1,000 shillings.
The Kampala Sun.
John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He is just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
It used to be that when we paid our bills, we had both feet on that ground for ages in a long line of strangers. But now, we pay bills instantly with our feet relaxed in front of the TV while we watch football with friends. You don't have to queue anymore. Pay your utility bills with Airtel Money, a simple, secure and instant money transfer that leaves you with all the time to do the things you love. Pay your bills, send and receive money, top up, access your bank account and withdraw Airtel Money across all InterSwitch ATMs countrywide. So, visit any Airtel shop today and register your SIM card. Airtel Money helps your money do more.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight, aspiring for a pro-people justice system. What should the justice law and order sector undertake to achieve this objective? Our guests tonight, Mr. Paul Gandeya, Senior Technical Advisor to the JLOS sector, Mr. Sam Wanagale, Technical Advisor in charge of monitoring and evaluation at JLOS, and Honorable Mike Sebalu, Ugandan representative at the East African Legislative Assembly. You'll be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Mr. Gandeya, take us a little bit more in detail about this day, very briefly, and then let's move to what the future holds with JLOS in action.
Okay, thank you, but I just thought I could just give a quick comment.
Okay, please.
The issue of East African passports, I think they've been out of production because of a machine which broke down, and two, because of the new regulations regarding use of travel documents. Now, JLOS will provide resources to the Directorate of Citizenship and Immigrations to acquire a new machine, and by the end of the year, we should have these passports. In fact, we're even going further to create regional centers for issuance of passports. Now, and as far as
East African passports,
East African, and also
even the national passports,
right.
So people will be able to get passports from their regions.
Really good.
People should be able to get passports at regional centers.
Wow. That's remarkable. That really is remarkable.
And we would like to computerize their registry, because right now it's improving, but could do better with automation.
Right.
Now, for the open day, we start the open day at the High Court grounds on Monday the 19th of March 2012. The chief worker is the Chief Justice, as explained to you. We'll go through Kampala Road and assemble at the Rere grounds. We start the day with very brief speeches because we like to use the occasion to listen to the people, to explain to people what we do, and we like them to ask us as many questions as possible. During the open day, you'll find a lot of materials about what these institutions do. We will have forms, we will have officers to answer whatever questions are available. Now, the issue of the law in this country has been a problem. We are going to avail simplified laws written in ordinary English and in other local languages, because we believe that
on Monday at the railway grounds, people should show up show
up. We'll be ready to answer their questions. The law can only help somebody if somebody knows the law.
What it is.
And that is what we want to put emphasis on.
Okay, and what are some of the things that you plan to do in the near future, or some of the things that we can expect from JLOS?
Yes, and as far as access to justice issues are concerned, we would like to provide legal aid and legal assistance to the most vulnerable. In this country, we only provide legal aid to people who are charged with capital offenses like murder, rape, and the others. We do not provide legal aid for civil cases which affect the common people. We don't provide legal aid for criminal cases that might lead to imprisonment of people.
For life,
for life. Even a month, my brother, can be too long.
Right.
Let's imprison people for the right reasons. And so we are going to establish the office of a public defender who will have lawyers to assist people in towns, in the villages, to have access to legal services.
Can the government afford that?
Yes, we believe that government can afford that.
And you hire private lawyers?
Yes, it will be built alongside the principle of the Directorate of Public Prosecutions,
right,
which costs the taxpayer 12 billion shillings every year. For the initial years, we might have to get assistance from our development partners to launch this scheme.
Right, development partners, of course you're talking about donors. It's a polite way to put it. Somebody was asking a question about the national ID. You spoke about the passports. How about the national ID project? Do we expect those to come soon?
Yes, the national ID project had a few issues because it was being pulled towards the Ministry of ICT.
Yes.
But the Constitution puts that mandate
in the Internal Affairs Ministry.
In Internal Affairs, which falls within the Just Law and Order sector. For now, we provided resources to the Directorate of Citizenship and Immigrations to pilot the issuance of IDs. And they did that by, they're in the process of issuing about 700 IDs to JLOS staff. We believe that this pilot will provide them with some
impetus, momentum,
impetus, but also learning experiences in how they can deliver this service.
All right, Mr. Wanagale, talk to us about the possibility of arbitration and mediation. You mentioned the issue of hiring lawyers. How about mediation, arbitration? People, before you go to the court, judges wearing wigs and gowns and so on, intimidating sometimes.
Thank you. As a sector, we do believe that the adversarial system where litigation does not create a win-win situation. And to complement the processes that ordinarily people would always go to in litigation, we have come up with alternative dispute resolution. Now, today if you filed a commercial case in the commercial court, you'll first have to go for mediation. It is mandatory. Because the idea behind this is to ensure that you sit together as a persons, you put what it is you would want from each other. You start by negotiating. It is only after you fail to negotiate that you move on to the next level. Remember that we do have our own informal systems as clans, as communities that are based on the principle of arbitration and mediation, and we would want this replicated even in the form of systems and the form of processes. Today, arbitration and mediation is being rolled out to civil justice, to family, and we also want it rolled out to even criminal cases, simple criminal cases, where
but criminal is against the state. How do you mediate between an individual and the state?
Ideally, when we look at our system, it gives local council courts responsibility to try some of the petty criminal offences.
Petty criminal offences.
Petty criminal offences.
Remember
that even petty criminal offences, if
someone murdered someone who's about to die, that's a petty criminal.
Is not a petty criminal offence.
Tell us what a criminal case. Because criminals are criminal.
Fighting in the public, assaults and simple things. And remember, the Constitution says that the court shall promote reconciliation among the parties.
Right.
Before the 1995 Constitution, reconciliations in the criminal area were very limited to what they called misdemeanors.
Yes.
However, under the 1995 Constitution, if we are to implement it to the letter, mediations and reconciliation should be applicable in most of the criminal cases, except the very serious ones.
Capital offences, murder,
capital offences, treason.
Even treason. If someone wants to overthrow the government, you can bring them to round. It happened in Nairobi, 1985.
Yes,
some rebels were brought together to talk to the government.
But not solve that. But I think one area where people didn't think that alternative dispute resolution would work was in the area of elections. We've tried it in this country,
and it has worked.
And some of these petitions have been solved through mediation.
All right.
They always said you can't divide the baby. I think you can divide the baby in appropriate circumstances. Because what mediation does is that it brings to the open the cases of the parties. And if you have a very poor case, you see it there,
exposed.
And out of peer pressure, you concede.
All right, and of course, maybe as a prior to that, this mediation started with a commercial court. Now it's going to be rolled to the other divisions of the court.
Yes, it is now going to be mandatory.
Sections.
All civil cases will begin with
litigation.
Mediation rather than mediation is going to be done by people within the court, private people, and the Center for Alternative Dispute Resolution. In fact, the future of the justice system is that judges should only resolve 10% of the cases.
Wow.
90% of the cases should ordinarily be resolved through alternative dispute resolution.
That sounds remarkable. Honorable Mike Sebalu, I'd like you to talk to us about something that has been in there for a long time. Some people think people go to jail and they come out worse because they've been treated inhumanely. The system is more punitive than reformative.
Yeah, thank you very much. But before I go to that, I think I want to make a few comments and appreciate JLOS for demystifying the sector. These actions of reaching out to the population, creating opportunity between the general public and the sector to interact and compare notes and share experiences, opens up to knowledge, and people get more confidence in the sector and they are able to make maximum use of it. Because like in the villages, just seeing a judge, someone will just run away, even when he's a son from that village and he's come to visit his village. So I think this is really something to write home about. The idea of the legal aid, public defender, is applied everywhere and it is very useful. I'm happy that it is coming home. Even the alternative justice system, when you go to Europe, most of the people who handle these issues are they're not legal judges. There are even some experienced people who some are teachers, but they are given skills of mediation and they end up helping a lot
in Rwanda. They are doing it
in this area. But I also want to say something before I go to the other one, that JLOS is quite doing a good job. Being a member of the East African Legislative Assembly gives me a lot of opportunity to move around. But this has been tried in Kenya and it simply didn't take off. It was a disaster. In Tanzania, it is moving so slow. And Uganda is giving the best case scenario in this, and they must be appreciated. Now, regarding the prison issue, these, in some places, these are called correctional facilities. And I want us to take it in that respect. You know, this prison thing that, you know, you isolate someone, imprison him, punish him, even in itself is conceptually not very right in my view. These are correctional facilities where one is supposed to be taken for purposes of rehabilitation, and in some places we've gotten the best prominent personalities have been in prison, getting all the degrees, getting all the expertise, getting all the skills that they would otherwise never have gotten out of the prisons. So I think we need to look at it from that angle, that we are correcting and all mechanisms of ensuring that it is not punishment per se, but it is imparting, empowering, and getting someone in the right mindset to be useful to community. So I think that is the way to go.
We're going to hear from the listeners, but of course there was a time when they used to call them the University of Understanding. The numbers were and they used to say it's a University of Understanding. Talk to us very briefly about that, Mr. Wanagale, before we hear from the listeners.
I just wanted to just share with you that we've moved also a long way in terms of transforming our prisons from being punishment centers to correctional services. When you look at statistics from Uganda prisons, the rate of reoffending, which is referred to as the rate of recidivism in Uganda, now stands at 28%.
From? Oh, that's good.
From about 45%. It is not yet very good, but it is better than even in America. Because in America, the rate of reoffending is about 85%, and there are statistics to show this. And this is because we have adopted a process of transforming people who come in prisons as criminals and they live as better people with better skills. You have seen how many people pass when in prisons.
Right.
Some of the best farmers are the people who have been to some of our prison farms, and there are people who have come up with better skills in carpentry and several other places as aspects.
Okay, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight.
But maybe what I want the sector to do is bring this information out in the
talk
public.
About it.
It is something. Being to prison is a condemnation. It is a taboo. I think we need more fora to educate the people about it, so that even those statistics, I'm hearing them for the first time, they ought to be out there in the public domain, so that we know what is happening positively in our prisons.
All right, this is Spectrum listeners on Radio 1 tonight, aspiring for a pro-people justice system. What should JLOS, that is the Justice, Law and Order sector, undertake to achieve this aim? Our guests, I've already read their names out, but you can call in and contribute to this discussion. Our number 041-4348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-261-390. Mr. Gandeya, you can still talk to us about that aspect. Is it something that would cost a lot of money to undertake, transforming our prisons from punitive to reformative system?
No, I don't think it's something that would cost a lot of money.
We have a caller on the line. Let's take them and then we'll continue. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name?
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening, your name?
My name is Achive, calling from Entebbe. I'd like to ask those guys in the studio that for how long are you going to be having this kind of arrangement? Maybe for how many years maybe to have it? Because it is really so good that so many people are going to be educated to get free education. It's like a UPE somehow. So, but you could find that so many people may not be in position to, join you. The syndrome in Uganda here, each and everything is always politicized, Even something that is going to be helping people, someone could do, there is a way it may trick it and bring politics in it. How are you going to defend yourselves away from politicians? Thank you.
Spectrum, hello? Okay. Would you like to respond to that, Mr. Gandeya?
Thank you, Mr. Kibirige. The JLOS is here to stay for as long as human life is still here, because we believe as long as
human life is
because we believe that justice is a service to the community. Even the rich, the poor, or the wealthy, or the strong, or the weak will need justice. And what we do in JLOS is that we are issue driven. We know that we have little resources against a very large mandate. And what we do is to prioritize the most pressing problems by directly responding to the issues of the people.
All right. Yes, Spectrum. Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, your name?
Yes, okay, I'd like to thank those gentlemen for really nice work they're doing. My name is Fred.
Fred,
sorry.
Yes.
Now, there's one thing, mediation. They need to be very cautious. People have differences in areas they stay in. Someone might be having a bias on someone and gives false information on someone to have him tried. How are they going to react to that? Thanks.
Hey, Spectrum, hello? Okay, with false accusers, people come up with false accusations against their colleagues, peers, or neighbors. How do you handle that?
Yes, you know that the justice system normally listens to two people, and even in mediation, the mediator helps parties to get to the truth. And that is what essentially a mediator is going to do. So there may be false allegations, but nobody will be imprisoned on false allegations, because the law is always played alongside certain rules. You hear the evidence from the parties. If they have documents, they will come in, and the judge or magistrate or mediator will arrive at a decision which is consistent with the facts. And that is what we try to emphasize. So issues of corruption, we don't tolerate them. They might be there, but we don't tolerate them in the sector, because that has been one other weakness within the justice system. The issue of mediation or reconciliation, that's what we call in criminal cases, at the moment is being done with the assistance of students from the Law Development Center. There is a small program which is being run. These are lawyers, they have not finished their training, but the lawyers who are applying the skills. And they basically talk to the people and enlist the truth out of these people. And the end result is always to reconcile the community. Because a just system must be fair, it must be kind, but should also mete out punishment where
punishment is due.
Where it is due.
Honorable Sebalu.
I think I definitely agree with my brother. First of all, these areas that are handled by competent technocrats, people who have experience, who have exposure in these matters, and some of them are applying, basically they're applying the same principles, because some of them you'll apply a method that may have been used in one disagreement, and you are able to bring it to light. So I think that is a good way of, and it will help reduce the backlog, because then you have fewer cases going to those other levels. But there was also the issue of politicking, which I want to make a comment about. You know, this is a government policy, definitely. JLOS is not working in isolation. But I agree with the caller that these issues shouldn't be politicized. But these are programs that should be supported by all political players, because there are cases where, you know, government comes up with a program or an arrangement, and then you find other people, be it opposition, you know, politicizing it by decampaigning it. I believe this is something that is good for all of us, regardless of our political affiliation. negotiations. It is in the best interest of the Ugandan people to access justice quickly in a manner that is cost effective and that creates harmony in society. So it should be supported by all leaders, be it religious, cultural, political, business, because this is what stabilizes a country, and I find it to be very critical that it needs support of everyone.
Just maybe one point.
Go on.
JLOS is actually chaired by the Chief Justice.
Yes, Justice Odoki.
Justice B.J. Odoki. And you can see that there is a relationship between the institutions falling in the executive and also the judiciary as an independent arm of government. And really the mission of JLOS is to have improved service delivery in the administration of justice. And that is one thing that has kept JLOS together, and that's the one thing that energizes JLOS to find more and more solutions to the problems that affect the common man. So we are issue-based.
Mr. Wanagale.
Maybe just to add, especially on the call outside, for how long are you going to be around? We believe that for purposes of such events like the open day that we have, we have started the process of taking them outside of this city center. We do have a replica of JLOS at district level, which brings together the other JLOS institutions at the district level with participation from communities, and we refer to them as district chain-linked committees. And these committees are also charged with the responsibility of ensuring that they improve the administration of justice and that they also deal with local level problems in their own localities. They have also been supported to have open days where they explain to communities, local communities, what it is they can get out of the justice system and what kind of services they get from the justice system. And these open days and processes are there in all the districts every year, at least once in every district every year. And we want to encourage our institutions at district level to make the open days a regular feature. We don't want to have it politicized, but something that we can even do on a quarterly basis. One of the challenges we have faced, and one of the causes of the delays and the backlog, is because when people file their cases, they forget to come back to the system, either as witnesses or as litigants. And sometimes you end up dismissing these cases for want of prosecution. Right. But the biggest challenge is because people don't know that
not follow up.
You need also to follow up your cases, and you also need to make sure that the witnesses are there. The judge cannot sit in a court and decide a case where the witnesses have not come in the favor of the complainant.
Okay. Finally, Mr. Can you give us a recap of this open day very briefly? What's going to happen on that day?
Well, for the open day, the Just Law and Order sector institutions are going to exhibit to the public what they do. They are going to have officers or public servants explaining how you can access justice services. We will have materials to share with the community. We will have people to answer their questions
at the railway ground in Kampala.
At the railway ground.
Yes.
And we'll also give out the materials. And I would like to encourage, free of charge, I would like to encourage those who will attend the open day to take back the message back to the community.
Spread it around.
Spread it around. Let's have a ripple effect. Because justice affects all of us, and JLOS, we exist to have justice for all.
Well, thank you very much, dear guests. Interesting discussion tonight. Mr. Paul Gandeya, Senior Technical Advisor to JLOS, thank you for coming to Spectrum tonight. Mr. Sam Wanagale, Technical Advisor, Monitoring and Evaluation at JLOS, and Honorable Mike Sebalu, Ugandan Representative at the East African Legislative Assembly. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond Kizito. Spectrum will be back on Monday. Do stay tuned.
Promotion.